Yeah, we're back. And today I have a question for you. How do you move beyond surface level thought leadership without overwhelming your audience?
Ooh, so last time we talked about team, this time we're talking about audience. And if your thinking has evolved, but your thought leadership still sounds like an earlier version of you, this is more common than people realize.
And today we're going to talk about why this happens for those of us who are established consultants, strategists, trainers, and speakers, and what we can do about it. This is the Grow Your Business for Good show. We're your hosts. I'm Shannon Hernandez.
And I'm Amy Hager.
This show explores what happens when a business outgrows its message and what it takes to rebuild messaging systems that carry the full depth of your work.
Each episode breaks down how messaging shapes trust, authority, and decision making, and why many established businesses find themselves explaining more while being understood less. We focus on the strategic shifts founders and leadership teams need to make when clarity alone isn't enough, so their expertise comes through without oversimplifying it. So I want to say something, and I'll go in and deep dive a little bit more on it, obviously. But depth builds authority when insight is structured, not stacked. And so, as we unpack this statement, we're going to really talk through why surface level content actually stops working and why, on the flip side, more depth often turns into overload. And I really want to also dive deeply today how depth actually builds authority. But let's unpack the surface level content stop working and how more depth can turn into overload first. And so, Shannon, dive in a little bit deeper about the surface level content, why it stops working, but also I want to ask you, why do you think it worked in the first place?
Well, because we were at an earlier stage of business
Right.
and we attracted people who were also at earlier stages of their business. And what wins in early stage growth of business is supreme clarity. It is
Mhm.
the I help who do what without whatever that you've been asked to write 52 billion times by now. And now it feels really inappropriate, incomplete, and thin. And you freaking hate the I help statement. Like
Yeah.
seriously, we could just shut the whole show down after that.
Right. Right. And I think too, as you're in your earlier steps, you're usually getting clients from referrals. You're usually getting clients from repeats. You're usually getting clients from your network. Those people are coming with a warmer assumption and trust that they can work with you because someone has said so. And so,
Well,
therefore, that surface level conversation can work better because it's a much warmer audience than I'm going to say someone who, finds you from speaking on a stage or et cetera, like that. So I do see that also as a big player in the why surface level content works so well in the beginning.
yeah. The other thing too is, in the last episode, if you haven't heard it, please go back and listen to it. We talk about how early on it's just us. We are doing the sales, we are doing the marketing, we are doing the messaging, we are doing the sales calls, we are doing the client delivery. Well, what happens when it's not you doing it all the time anymore? Things get lost in translation,
Right.
right? And so early stage growth will reward very simple, very repeatable, and very broad explanations. However, as we grow, as we evolve, thank God we evolve, right? As
Right.
we turn into a non-baby business owner and a beautiful brand, a lot of this languaging just starts to feel what I call really thin or incomplete. And
Yeah.
honestly, if you've ever read your own website copy, and not liked it. And you're like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. I
The
don't want people
cringe.
coming to my website. It's like
Yes.
the
Do you know how
website
many
cringe.
people say that to us? I don't want people coming to my website because the messaging is so bad.
Yeah.
That's
I
a
mean,
sign of
that's a
growth, my
sign.
friend. That's actually something to celebrate.
Absolutely. It is a sign of growth and evolution, and we should all be celebrating that.
Yeah.
But if you keep your message early stage, it actually insults a mature audience.
Hmm.
And so, as established consultants, speakers, strategists, and trainers, we often feel the pressure of, oh, I need to go deeper. My work has deepened. My body of work has deepened. My frameworks have deepened. How I think about things have deepened. I've been in this industry and I've seen the shit shows come in and come out. But guess what? We're also often unsure of how to do that without losing people. And
Yeah.
Amy is the one who says to our clients all the time, overwhelmed people do not buy.
No.
So we have an interesting dilemma. We're established, we know our messaging system needs to evolve, we know our body of work has evolved, and we have to be careful
Hmm.
because more depth may actually turn into overload.
Yeah. And a lot of common things that I see is you're explaining more, taking longer to explain, you're over teaching, especially if part of your lead gen is, let's say, a workshop experience or something along those lines. And you try to share all of the deepest thought leadership you have at once. And this can happen in multiple parts of the journey. It can happen when you are doing your, entry level, I'm going to say marketing efforts like your social media or something along those lines. It can happen in your email newsletters to your list. It can happen in your workshop. It also happens in your sales conversations. And like Shannon said, overwhelmed people do not buy. And if they are just not able to really have, I'm going to say that full body yes and feel super aligned with you, then you're going to feel it. It's an awkward, uncomfortable conversation to be in. Again, it's a great sign that you need help explaining your concepts and explaining things differently than the way you used to when you had those referral and repeat people only that you were talking to. But I think that, it really makes you tired. Like it really creates that fatigue and frustration in your business. And there's times that the person that you're talking to or your ideal person is not clear on the takeaways, and you're probably not clear either because you've over-explained, over-taught, and really, I'm going to say overloaded yourself. And so what people might confuse in this overload thought is overload isn't a reflection of your intelligence, but it is a reflection on the structure and how the structure probably needs to shift and change.
Yeah, and I want to just give a brief example. So, back in January, we decided to, well, Shannon deepened a body of work we're known for here, the profit-driven messaging ecosystem. But I had a realization that after working with this body of work for the last 18, 20 months, there was a big piece that was missing. And so I added that piece in, and then we held a free training, and I invited people I really respect and admire to come to this training as a reviewer of the content. I gave them very specific questions. You know, what landed for you? What was completely unclear? How do you feel now after going through this hour-long training versus when you got here about your messaging system, your messaging structure? And the feedback I got back was so good. But
Hmm.
the number one feedback I got back is it was too much information.
Yep. And we could feel that as we were kind of teaching it too, I think.
Yeah. And so
And
what happened, right? What happened is people got tired. So they were
mhm.
trying to connect too many things at one time. They weren't clear on what the takeaway was because there were probably
Right.
too many. And thank God these people didn't have emotional disengagement because they actually like us a lot and want us to succeed and we're there with a purpose. So it was good in the sense that we got what we needed. But from that one workshop, we then decided to run a 3-day challenge called When Your Work Outgrows Your Message. And so I want to talk about the importance of getting deep in your content and building authority worth it with that content versus overwhelming people and they run for the hills. Okay. And
Hmm.
this is where I'm going to really talk to you all about long form content series. I
Yeah.
am such a fan of freaking series of content. All right. And I'm not going to lie, it kind of comes from Netflix, where when they started rolling out series and you were like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? You just watched it or you turned it off and went to bed and it was like, tomorrow I'm watching the next one, right? And so I started thinking really different years ago about my content and what could I give people in digestible chunks that built up over time. I'm not
Mm,
saying they're short chunks. I'm not saying they're simple chunks. I'm saying they're digestible chunks, a digestible video, digestible blog, digestible post, whatever. And those of you who read my stuff, you know, I love long form content. It's like my jam, right? So I want you to start thinking about your thought leadership content in terms of a series because depth in your thinking and the depth that's needed for you to evolve, it doesn't come from you saying everything at once, even though we want to. And it doesn't come from explaining every layer to your body of work all at one time, which is what I actually tried to do back in January. And that was the feedback is it's too, Shannon, it's too much. In fact, the feedback was you could have spent the whole 75 minutes on just one graphic. The first graphic was so compelling, and that's what I wanted to know more about, right? So, as our thought leadership evolves and we feel this pull to go deeper with our messaging, to restructure the messaging system, the depth is going to come from clear prioritization of what do people need to know first,
mm.
then next, then next. This is why I love series and sequencing. It's so intentional. And I always want to say, like, I would be so honored that people would be binging my content like Netflix,
Yeah.
right? And we have to get really good as established thought leaders of naming what matters most and then stepping away and letting people digest it and then coming back because authority grows when our people feel oriented to our ideas, not impressed and not overwhelmed.
Yeah. And so then I think what will be helpful because this is our forte. Shannon, like she said, we love long form content. We love that bingeable content and building it into a series and taking you on a journey. But it's not, I'm going to say it's not the easiest content to create. You have to be very, very thoughtful. And so when you think about what the structured depth actually looks like in practice, it leads people step by step. It's going to introduce complexity gradually. And you really need to respect the audience capacity. And I want to just pause here and say, if you listened to last episode, you heard like Shannon can create and think and absorb things very quickly compared to the normal person. There are often times that, I have to say, we need to slow this down, or you're getting all of this through way quicker than the average person. And so that's why people aren't able to keep up. And again, it's not any judgment on anybody, but it's very, very smart to have the pulse and to really listen And that's what we did in that feedback from that workshop from our collaborators is we really, really listened. And when they said there were too many concepts for them to grasp and they weren't for sure what the takeaway actually was, we knew that we had gone beyond the audience's capacity.
Yep. And I think from a thought leader and a personal, our personality is what built the brand early on. And now we're being asked to build a brand that isn't so dependent on us as people. We have to remember that this is not about holding back your brilliance or holding back your insight.
Yeah.
It's about guiding the attention so that engagement continues and people continue coming back, get a little more. It's like the buffet. Oh, I want some green beans. Okay. Now I want some beef. Okay. Now I
Yeah.
want a hot buttered roll. Okay. You didn't well, maybe you did load your whole plate up of everything in the buffet to begin with, right? But you also know how you feel when you eat all that at one time,
Very true. Very true.
right?
You feel stuffed,
So
overwhelmed, and like you can't think, move, or do anything, right? You're in a food coma. So
it's
you don't
like
want to create
Thanksgiving
food
dinner.
comas. It's funny because
Yes.
we just made Thanksgiving dinner the other day, and Josh totally did that with all of the foods.
I love that. So we want to keep engagement high and we want to structure our content so it doesn't fatigue the audience.
Right.
A great example, I'll give you guys a little behind the scenes. So got to Valencia, Spain, started networking, met a beautiful couple who runs a video production um, agency. And tomorrow I go into the studio and we are recording um, like a first professional, I'd say, recorded video session in a studio with a teleprompter. Like he's the guy's name is Leo, Amy, and he's like, "How long is this going to take?" I'm like, "Not very long."
Yeah.
I'm so good without a teleprompter. I can't imagine having a teleprompter in year 14 of business, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, we decided 8 episodes of
Mhm.
when your work um, outgrows your message because I didn't want to overwhelm people. And I
Right.
told him my vision and I said, listen, I want these to be 5 to 8 minutes each. And people are like, oh, that's interesting. And then I kind of tease the next one. And then they go to the next one. They hit play and then they go to the next one. Maybe they go back through the whole thing and take notes or reach out on LinkedIn or whatever they're going to do. But
Yeah.
I had to be really careful because at this point, I could have gone and done a 2 hour video. That's not going to serve anyone,
Right.
right? So I'm excited about tomorrow and we're practicing what we preach over here, which feels really good.
Yeah. I think that's really, really important. And so, just to kind of wrap up today, surface level content will get you far in the beginning of your business. But as your business grows and matures, as your thought leadership grows and matures, it no longer resonates. And therefore, we might be overloading our audience. And when we overload, our audience loses their clarity with us. And so we really need to think about the structure that will make depth usable and really understandable by our audience. And what does that look like for us?
Oh my gosh, Amy, this may have been one of my favorite episodes of the season.
Yay! I like it
I
when we record our
love,
own favorite episodes.
yes, we are. We get to say what our favorite is.
Yeah.
If you are an experienced or established consultant, strategist, speaker, or trainer, and you're finding yourself explaining your work way more than you should be, or things getting lost in translation to your
Mhm.
team or to yourself, you can download our profit driven messaging ecosystem guide at joyfulbusinessrevolution.com/profit messaging. And I designed this guide to help bring coherence and structure back to your body of work and thought leadership. We will see you all soon. Adios.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Grow Your Business for Good. This show is a part of our work at the Joyful Business Revolution, where we help founders and leadership teams rebuild messaging systems when their work has outgrown their message. If you're explaining too much and people still don't fully understand the value of your work, you can explore more at joyfulbusinessrevolution.com.
Until next time, remember this: when your messaging system is aligned, sales conversations shorten and your expertise comes through clearly.